Hey guys, it's Ricer Boy, and today we're going to have an exciting video where we clean up a couple things here. So if you caught my last video, you will know that I did in fact plasti dip my roof, and it's definitely not done. I did run out of plasti dip, and as you can see, the texture looks like skateboard grip tape. It looks especially bad with all of this extensive sunlight. But overall, I'd say that it definitely needs some work for me to be fully satisfied with it. And I tried to go to Walmart in order to buy more plasti dip, but just because it's in the paint section, they wouldn't let me buy it because I wasn't 18. Stupid, right? Who would seriously vandalize with something that you can peel off with the effort of a fingertip? Regardless, I am going to get that fixed because, in my opinion, it looks awful. Well, at least that grasshopper likes the carbon fiber on my antenna. Now, also on the topic on the plasti dip roof job, I did manage to get these trim pieces back on using some really strong double-sided tape, so those are all fine. But when it comes to the last trim piece that goes over the windshield right here, I learned an interesting thing. Nissan just forced it in there and also put on some special like polyurethane glue, so it's just basically popped in right now. I had to use a flathead screwdriver to take out the rest of the dried glue, but I'm definitely going to put in some new glue and fix that when I have the chance, along with the fact that my plasti dip job is absolutely awful in some areas like here, and the red that you can see through here, and also on the edge of the sunroof right there. It's pretty sad, but it's a work in progress, so don't judge. And speaking of a work in progress, I finally got down to painting my strut bar from the other videos a while back. And it's looking pretty good. I have to do another coat on that because you can see some of the chrome through it, because I first had to paint it chrome and then I had to paint it metallic because I didn't realize that that was just a clear red coating until way too late. The other side's done, but it looks pretty bad, but when I finish that, should be ready to install, and of course there will be a dedicated video to that. Now, something that I want to do, just so that way I can get the most interesting jobs out of the way first, is that I want to officially debadge my car. So basically, I plasti dipped all of my logos on the car about a year ago, to this day actually, and the job wasn't that smooth, and honestly when it came to the center lettering especially, since I had to mask around every single individual letter, the job didn't come out that well and the edges were very weak, and of course I got a lot of orange peel going on. The other problem at play here is the fact that I personally think that now that I added the Nismo badge, there's too many badges on the back of my car. So I think I can make it cleaner and look more modern, and hopefully at least improve slightly this gigantic bubble butt by removing these badges. Now, if you're following along at home and want to do this to your car, there's actually a little hack that you need to know. Because if you don't want to scratch your paint and you don't want to buy specialty tools, what I just do is I get a flathead screwdriver and I wrap a paper towel around it like that to make it soft. Now, you might want to do this over twice, and I especially use this trick for interior trim pieces as well. It's honestly a very smart move if you don't want to scratch up or possibly chip away at whatever you're working on. So now we'll just work at the edge of this badge and pry it off as gently as we can. He says as he rips through the paper towel. See, what's fortunate about that mishap right there is they only ended up scratching the badge, and since the plasti dip is there to protect it, there isn't even any damage on it. Then again, it's not like I'm going to use it for anything else, so this time I will be more careful, and I will do it this way, where I'll just pry the screwdriver under without ripping through the paper towel, and then I'll get under the edge like that. You just got to do that all the way around and twist it around just a bit so you can loosen up the adhesive that's under there. For some logos this will be easier than others, but for this one it's a lot of patience that's required. Then with some gentle prying, and as you can see the paper towel getting attached to the adhesive because I used it under the badge, now all you have to do is just clean off this residue. I'd recommend using alcohol, possibly purple power, just any weak cleaning agent that won't go through the clear coat or your paint. I'd actually recommend using your fingernails for the bigger chunks of adhesive, because on Mohs scale of hardness, your fingernails aren't nearly enough to scratch car paint. Yet if you take out the big chunks, that'll make it a lot easier to clean off the rest of the residue when you use a cleaning agent. So you just scrape the adhesive together using your fingernails. There's a bit of it right there. Now I will retract my earlier statement because Purple Power is a very powerful degreaser and a mild paint thinner, so actually I would rather that you don't use that on your paint. Instead, I just have a regular microfiber cloth that's covered in water, so I'm just going to rub it on the residue, and that should take most of it off. Whatever is left, I could either just use like Windex or alcohol for. But I do think that a degreaser is way too strong to use for this application. Because even just right now, regular water on a cloth does get rid of a good amount of it. It's all about the pressure that you apply to it. So now that we've run over it with the water, I do have the Windex, and even though it is a window cleaner, it is a mild agent in getting rid of the dirt and the extra particles from the adhesive. So now I'll just get rid of the last bit of it with the Windex, spritz it on, just like that. We'll rub it in and see how it works. Now as you can see, we're making a lot of progress, so we just have to be patient and keep going at it with the Windex, and hopefully we can get off all of this remaining residue. Now something that I just realized is that this car specifically has 8 badges when it comes from the factory. And because I added a Nismo badge, that means that this one has 9 on it. There's one Nissan logo in the front, one in the back. On the sides, on each side there's an SER logo and a Spec V logo. And of course on the back you have the Sentra lettering, the SER logo again, and then the Nismo badge. So I don't know about you, but I think that's a lot of badges. Now after all that scrubbing, there's barely anything left. When it comes to this remaining residue, at least with my badge in particular, it's a hard glue, so at this point I'd recommend transitioning to a toothpick or something that's hard enough to possibly break this glue off, yet not scratch the paint. But even still, I'm pretty satisfied with how this turned out, and almost all the glue is gone, so looks good to me. And now we can just use the same technique on the Sentra badge, so that way meanies on the internet can stop calling me a Sentra owner. This is a Spec V now. I think this badge is actually made out of rubber. I don't know if you're seeing how much it flexes, but that's not just the plastic doing that. Bastard doesn't want to come off. So you just have to use the paper towel as just a cloth so you could go under it. I'm actually really surprised that this badge was made out of rubber because it's like really flexible, as you can see. I mean, it's sort of perfect how this exact badge was not only so difficult to plastidip dip 1 year earlier, but now is like also difficult to peel off. So you can see it's just flexing completely. That is really weird. I'm also hoping I didn't scratch my paint there. But that's why I use the cloth to protect your paint. You can just peel it off with your fingers after that. Or not. It just broke. Oh, that's so great. This badge hates me. So I did scratch my paint just a little bit, but that's like barely anything compared to some of the other damage on my car. Even though it's still all pretty minor. See, that's the biggest thing about this job. There's no turning back. You need to be certain that you hate the way the badges look on your car. And for me, I don't want my car to be a Sentra anymore, so it doesn't have to be. If you're a Haggard Garage fan, then you know what word goes after that one. Now just put the letters P, A, and I after that, and you have what the R34 Skyline GTR is to me. Now finally, all of those stupid fucking rubber letters are off. Now I just realized that made no sense to you guys, since that was probably like 5 seconds for me taking all of them off. But it was very frustrating. Now fortunately these letters did not leave much residue, so we can go straight to the Windex just to get off what's remaining. And as you can see, when you do get it wet, you can barely even tell they were there. So you just scrub, use friction to your advantage, and just keep at it, and eventually you'll get rid of any hint that those letters were there. Now I'll leave it up to you guys in the comment section below if I should keep my Nismo badge or not, but I think I'll get rid of it because weight reduction. Well guys, the adhesive wouldn't come off with the badge, so it looks like I'm going to have to delete it, whether you like it or not. Sorry, but I don't think I have enough time to cut new adhesive to look exactly like this pattern, and I'm not about to order another one just to do that. I mean, imagine where else that $7 can go. Well, I guess I'll just have to Windex off what's left of it. Well, it's all off. That's all the badges I'm going to be doing for today. Rest in peace, Nismo badge. You will be missed. Also, I figured that now's a good time to mention that if you want to add to these shop decorations right here, my P.O. Box link is in the description, and of course you will get a free shout out if you said anything. From a distance, I'm really liking the way that this looks. You can barely even see all the residue still left by the Nissan badge, but once you get that fixed, I think it'll look pretty nice. So guys, after breaking off the tip of a toothpick to use as a tool to get away at the remaining residue, there is now nothing left where the original Nissan badge was. So we can look at the final results right here, but I have to say it looks pretty sexy. It actually looks wider than the car originally was, at least in my opinion, and I do think it improves the look of the car. Thumbs up. So now, the other more boring thing that I want to do in this video is I want to do a deep clean of this interior because it hasn't been cleaned in months. And now, it would be alright in any other car since I don't have any garbage in my car and I'm very, very clean and have very high standards on what goes into my car and what goes out. But even still, when it comes to that, I have a lot of black plastic and you can see the dust on the plastic. So as I remove this seat, I'm going to tell you an interesting story that happened during my Cars and Coffee. Now, something that I'm ashamed to admit is that you guys actually missed a Cars and Coffee. See, I figured it wasn't worth it to take video of another Cars and Coffee, yet little would I know, there was a whole bunch of cool cars there. So of all the cars that we didn't see last time, there was a turbo Mark IV Supra there that had a turbo the size of a watermelon, literally, and there was also a turbocharged sleeper Integra sedan where the license plate said on and off on it, and the owner put a little switch between the two that you could flip on and off. But beyond any of that, my grandpa also went to another car dealership because, let's just face it, he has a car buying addiction, and that's kind of what he does. But then the other thing that happened is this crazy story that I'm right about to tell you as I use this breaker bar against the seat bolt because whoever last removed this seat put it in way too tight. I think that finally got it. Well, it sure is a good thing I have ratcheting wrenches because that was way, way, way too hard to get off. But like I was saying, the story that I'm talking about happened during the last Cars and Coffee on Saturday of this week. Well, actually, it's last week, but you understand what I'm saying. Basically, on my way to Cars and Coffee, I was driving there with Rice Man in the Sentra, and we were behind this lowered, blacked out 80s GMC Sierra dually, and it was the stupidest looking thing ever. It's like if you had an El Camino and you decided to give it growth hormones in the back wheels. Regardless, we were on a high construction road and it was bumper to bumper traffic. I was behind this guy and he was going really slowly, and I could tell by looking at his reflection from the driver's seat that he was looking back and forth on each side. Then, when he was about to turn into one of the businesses on the road, he just stopped, dead in his tracks. So I looked in my rearview mirror and the driver behind me just flailed his arms up in frustration, and I obviously had the impression that they thought that I was blocking things up. So I did as any polite driver would, and I honked at the truck. Now the truck didn't like this, and I could tell that because after we hit the next stoplight and we turned right, he rolled coal onto me. Now given that I washed my car the day prior, I was at least slightly pissed off by this. And because of that, I did as any ricer would, and I went into the other lane, I passed him, and I brake checked him numerous times, and as we got up to stoplights, I would gradually brake and then slam on them. Now this resulted in this truck tailgating me, and it was obvious at this point that we had a rivalry because I had road rage, and I wasn't about to have this asshat driving his shitty El Camino ripoff try to blow smoke onto me. Now even though I didn't meet this guy again, the most awkward thing ever happened at Cars and Coffee when I was looking amidst the side of the road and I saw that his truck was parked there. Fortunately, he didn't recognize me, and neither of us cared enough to fade out in person, besides the fact that my dad and grandpa were there. But basically, kids, the lesson here is don't get carried away with road rage. Now, if you've ever wondered why ratcheting wrenches are a must-have for any toolkit, look at what happened to this bolt when I used the wrench side of it. Do you see how it's really silver on that side? That's because the wrench stripped it. ratcheting wrenches. Alright guys, it's time that we get serious about this whole weight reduction thing. There we go. Well guys, I figured out why my climate control smells so bad. Those two ducts blow air over that stain. I will admit though, the interior does look a lot more open without that seat. And if I ever do quarter miles in this car, I'll definitely remove it for that extra bit of weight reduction. So now, with that seat out of the car and only 4 bolts removed, it'll make things a lot easier to clean inside and outside. Well guys, I think that ought to do it for this video. So thanks for watching, and peace out.